Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on building a digital clock. Now we're going to be using Vanilla JS and object-oriented programming. So rather than functional programming. So I don't want to call this a simple project, but the front end component of it in terms of the UI is pretty simple. It's not really a complex looking project. But it still is a beginner / intermediate project, meaning there are certain objects and methods that you would need to know or come across before you're able to successfully develop this application. So with that said, let's get right into the video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you do end up enjoying the video. But yeah, let's get right back into it. Okay guys, so here's what the digital clock app that we're going to be building looks like. Here's a working version of it. So as you can see, it's 2:57 here, it's 2:57 here, actually it's 2:58 now, and as you can see it changed to 2:58 p.m. This is going to follow the 12-hour format, so it's not going to be it's not, as you can see, it's not 14:58, it's just 2:58. So it follows that format. At the bottom here you see it's the current day of the month. So here we follow the month, day, and year format. I know some other places it follows the day, month, and year. So you can format it whichever way you want based on the code. That part's not really that hard, but I chose to do it in the way that is predominantly used in the United States. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's a simple concept. There's nothing much going on the screen. It's responsive, so you have that part working for you, but there's not much to it. It's just building this application out. So with that being said, let's go right into the code. I'm going to be using VS Code as the IDE. So VS Code, so Visual Studio Code. I thought I just said Visual Studio. So we're going to be using Visual Studio Code as the IDE to create this. So let's just go right into it. Okay, so we have Visual Studio Code opened up. So this is our IDE. So we're going to be creating a folder for it. So it's going to be make directory, and I'm going to be calling it what should we call it? Digital OOP. And we're just going to call it Digital OOP YouTube. So that's what we're going to call it. And we're going to CD right into it. Digital OOP YouTube, clear. And now we're going to be doing npm init. This is because we're going to be using Tailwind. So we're going to do that, and we can just open up the file now, the folder. So we're going to open this up, and yes, I trust the author. And then let's go right into Tailwind. So get started. We're just gonna take this, and I've pretty much done this in a couple of videos, so I'm not gonna really walk through what I'm doing. But if you guys want to see how to connect the Tailwind to your project, you can go ahead and just watch the other videos. Cool. So now let's see if this works. So h1 tag. Yep. Let's see if the CSS compiles. Yep. So we're all set to go. So yep. So now what we have to do is just connect our app.js using script source app.js. Cool. So now we can just close out of all of this. And if you guys want to know exactly what I just did, if you're a beginner to it, just go ahead and watch the other videos. I pretty much run Tailwind all the time, so I do it all the time rather than doing it I didn't explain it all over again. So it'll be a great way to learn the skill. So now let's see. Okay, so let's build out the the index.html portion first, because it always makes it easier to manipulate using app.js when you know what you're doing. So it's going to be pretty simple. So for the class, it's going to follow pretty much the same CSS that we used for the last video. So it's going to be pretty similar. And now we can say we're just going to create a couple of divs. And yes, I do know how to use the shortcuts for the divs to create divs, to create div classes and things like that. But like I said, not everyone does. So I'm just going to do it the more conventional way, so people know what's going on. Let's see. So okay, auto. So we're going to say container auto. Pattern A, and I don't really explain what I'm doing with the CSS because you can manipulate the CSS whichever way you want. This suits the way I want to do it, so you can follow along, or you can create your own look to the application. So you might have a way in your head that you think, oh, this would look cool, so you just go ahead and do that. CSS only if you're building for a client who has something specific. CSS for a personal project is pretty much just, it's like icing on the cake. Oh, cool, this looks cool. So you know what I'm saying. So that's why I don't really go into depth with what I'm doing CSS wise. So now that we have our divs done, so now we're getting into the actual we're getting into some elements now. So we're gonna say h1 class, and we want it to be text to Excel. We want a font semi-bold. We want MB4, and we want text to be centered. Cool. And we want to call this digital clock. There it is. So let's also call this title digital clock. So it shows up there as digital clock. It's a good skill to to have. So let's also use our linter for this. So wrong shortcut. There we go. Awesome. So now it looks a little better. It looks more organized, so we can see what we're doing. So we have the digital clock here, and what we're going to be doing is saying div class right underneath it. And if you guys want me to explain what I'm doing CSS wise, you can just let me know in the comment section. When I was learning how to do all this, I wasn't all that worried about the CSS portion because it's something I just like to play with in terms of, oh, this looks cool, or let me try this out. So everyone has their own style of styling. That's why I don't really, actually, this should be ID. That's why I don't really go too in depth with it. So yeah, it should be, and now this is either or. So this class also, and this class is gonna be just text Excel. There we go. So just like that, we're done. That is everything we need from our front end section. So what we're saying here now, just to reiterate everything now, is we have the whole body of the page is going to be gray. We have a container that's in the middle of the page. That's where we get margin X auto. So it's saying everything should be horizontally in the middle. Background is white, so as you can see, this is white. Pattern, we have a pattern of 6 around. It's rounded, so the border's rounded, and we have a shadow around it. So that's pretty much that. For H1, it's semi-bold. It has a margin bottom of 4, so there's space at the bottom. So yeah, that's pretty much all we're doing. And then for this class, the clock, as you can see, there's nothing in it. So let me second. So as you can see, there's nothing within this div. That's because we're going to be using JavaScript to insert things into it, just the same way we're going to do with the date ID, clock and the date ID. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's jump over to app.js and start working with it. Okay, so now that we're in the app.js portion of our application, what we want to do is we want to say class clock. So we're creating a class, and within this class, we're gonna have a constructor, and this constructor is gonna say this.hour is equal to 0. I'm gonna explain this in a second. This.minute is equal to 0. This.second is equal to 0. And this.time format is equal to AM. Cool. So what we're doing here is we're initializing the hour, minute, second, and time format. So this means when we come over here to document, we're going to say we have hour, we have minute, and we have seconds. So we have the hour here, we have the minute here, and we have the seconds here. So in order to construct this, we're going to say all of this is basically 0. And we're going to give the time format, which is going to give it a placeholder of AM just for right now. So that's what we're doing. We're initializing everything to basically 0. And then we're able to update it later on. So now we finished up with the constructor. So what we want to do is we want to update it. So we want to say update time. Cool. And within update time, what we want to say is const new is equal to, well, const now is equal to new date, and save. So this dot hour is equal to now dot get hours, and this dot minute. Well, this dot hour is sorry, I just spaced out for 2 seconds. So this dot hour is equal to now dot get hours, and this dot minute is equal to now dot get minutes. And the reason we're doing this is because this is a built-in way of getting the date in JavaScript. So we're just saying const now is equal to that method, and we're going to use this now variable to get what we need. So now.getHours is going to give us the hour. Now.getMinutes minutes is going to give us the minute, and so on and so forth. So this dot second is equal to now dot get seconds. So now, okay. So for the time format, we're going to say this dot time format is equal to this dot hour. So we're going to say if the hour is greater or equal to 12, then, so we're going to use a ternary operator. So we're going to say then it's equal to PM, or else we're going to say AM. So we're using a ternary operator here to say for time format, in order to know if it's AM or PM, we're going to say this dot hour. If it's greater or equal to 12, then it's PM. Sorry, if it's greater or equal to 12, then it's PM. If it's less than that, then it's AM. So after doing so, we're going to say if this dot hour, so in order to complete this, say this dot hour is equal to 12, is greater than 12, then this dot hour minus equals 12. So this is going to keep it in the in a 12-hour format. So if it's greater than 12, then we're going to subtract 12 from it. So if it's 13, then we're going to subtract 12 from 13. So it's going to be 1. So rather than going to 13, we have a way to keep it at 12. So that's exactly what this is doing. So now, after we have this update, let's just make this bigger. What we can do now is say display clock, and this is going to say const clock element is equal to let's see, document dot get element by ID and clock. So we're going to be picking this now, this ID, this clock ID, because we want to be able to insert whatever we need to insert within this div. So that's what we're doing right now. So clock, and now I want to say const hour format is equal to this dot hour, and we're going to change this to string, and we're going to say dot pad start 2 and 0. So what this is doing is saying for the hour format, we want to take the hour time, we want to convert it to a string, and we want to be able to have two, so it's easier if you just look at it. So as you can see here, for the hour, there are two numbers here, 0 and 3. We don't just want to have 3. So we're saying at the start of it, there should be a 0 if there's nothing in front of it. So if, let's say we were using 13 as, rather than 3 o'clock, let's say this was 1 o'clock, and we were going through a 24-hour format, and this said 13, right, which would be 1 o'clock. So it would have two numbers. So the 0 would not be needed, because we only need 2. We need to make sure this hour format has 2 numbers here. So if there's a number lacking, we're gonna, at the start of the number, at the start here, we're gonna add a 0. That's all this is saying. So we need 2 numbers for hour, and for the start, that's why I said pad the start, we're gonna pad it with the 0 in order for it to have 2 numbers. So we're gonna do the same thing for minute and seconds. So let's just come down here, and we're gonna change this to minute, and we're gonna change this to second, and we're gonna say, let's see, pass out. Yep. We're gonna change this to minute, and we're gonna change this to second. Cool. So by doing so, we're able to have it look more authentic, like a digital clock. So that's why you don't really need this part, to be honest. Like this formatting, you don't really need it. It's just a great way to make it look like a digital clock. So const current time now. So for the current time, we're gonna say, we want to put the current time within this div. So we're gonna say span, because we're gonna create the CSS for it also. And we're gonna say text 6XL, font bold, text blue, 600. And then we're gonna say, let's see if we can make this look better. Okay, now we're gonna say, let's see. Okay, now we're gonna, in here, we're gonna plug in our format, colon, and we're gonna do the same thing here. And we're gonna say minute format, another colon, sorry. And we're gonna say second format. And then we're gonna close out the span. Cool. So now we're gonna create another span class. And we're gonna say text XL to gray. Cool. And here we're gonna say span. Awesome. So this dot time format, and then close that. and then, well, it's closed. So this dot time format. So what we're doing here is for the hour format, minute form. So for the hour, minute, and second, we're putting it within this class. And for the time format, we're going to put it within this class. And you can see that here. So as you can see, all this are within one class, and then this is within its own class. So rather than everything looking the exact same, you want to like differentiate it and then say this is the clock and this is the time format. So if we go to our digital clock, as you can see, nothing's still in there. We're still basically doing all this. So we have the current time done. So now we want to plug this in to the HTML, into this. So what do we do? Now we can say clock, actually it's going to be added. There we go. We can say clock element dot inner HTML is equal to current time. Cool. And as you can see, at this moment, nothing's in there yet. But this is how you're going to take this clock element and plug it in to the HTML. So we're going to say clock element dot inner HTML is equal to current time. So now we can come down here and say const clock, which is the class, and say new clock. So we're going to instantiate it and say clock dot display clock. Cool. As you can see, only AM shows. So now we're going to go back into our clock and we're going to set the interval. So that's also a built-in JavaScript method. So we're going to say set interval, and we're going to say this dot update time, and say this dot display clock. So what this means is whenever we use this class, this clock class, like we did here when we instantiated it, when we I'm thinking initialized, but when we instantiated it, when we got clock to be new clock, and we said clock.display clock, we are saying whenever we call on this clock class, we're setting this interval. This is being returned. So it's being returned in a passive way. So we're not actually writing return, but by using this class, we're returning the this method. So now let's save it and let's see. Okay, so there is something awry somewhere. So let's see. Oh, so this should be 1000 also. So that does nothing. Okay, so there should be an error somewhere. So update time, current time. There we go. So that's something we forgot to do. So let's see if I refresh this. Okay, so we got one part. So this is basically just debugging 101. We're just gonna look through and see if we did anything that doesn't make sense. So this should be update. There we go. So it's always the spelling. So this should be update time. And as you can see, this worked. So what did we do here? So we used the built-in set interval method, and we said this dot update time, which is where's update time? So we're calling on this method here. So we're saying this dot update time, and we're calling on this dot display clock. So we're calling on this. So anytime we instantiate using the clock and we append it to display clock, so clock dot display clock, so we're calling on this function display clock, we're basically returning everything within this this constructor, so which includes the set interval. That's why this works. So that's pretty much all we did to get the clock running. So for right now, Actually, yeah, for right now, everything with clock works perfectly. So I'm just going to cut the video short and leave it at this. And then for the next video, for the part 2, basically, I'm going to be making the calendar. So 9/5/2023. So this is what I'm going to be doing next. So stay tuned. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying not to make it as long as my last video. That was a little bit longer, but if you guys also want to check that out, I would appreciate it if you go support that video. Give it a like, thumbs up, comment, the whole 9 yards, and yeah, just help the channel grow pretty much. But this is where I'm going to leave it with the digital clock. You can also do the same thing here. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, share with others, and I'll see you guys on part 2. Peace.